What's up, folks? Good to be here. How's everybody doing? This software is fascinating because they just dropped an interview function, and it says it's part of the Pro plan. And so currently, I'm kind of in the camp of I have one software to record Skype interviews from the same company, and they have this other one that is Interview Pro Live. And there's a couple of other podcasts that I listen to that have like live interviews with people, which, I guess in theory seems like fun, but I always stress out that guests will be intimidated if I tell them that the interview is going to be live. Like, it's so nice to, if they flub up on something or stutter their words, or they say, hey, like, oh, I got to look that up, that I can cut that out, or I can tell my editor to cut that out. That's just a really nice function. But I noticed that as I logged in the last live stream, and I figured I'd bring it up today. So you can just let me know. What's up, Sachin? You can let me know in the comments if anybody would like to see um, live interviews coming up. I think for people who have been on the podcast before, that makes a little bit of sense. But, for new guests, I think we'll keep it something that gets edited and not really all that shared. So how's everybody doing? This is office hours. This is the public, available to all YouTube subscribers live stream at the end of the month. This is, more or less sponsored by everybody who's supporting the content. Shout out if you are. Thank you for being here. And yeah, I'm basically just going to go through answering questions that you folks might have in the comments, in the chat. This is a great time to super chat if you want. Obviously, really, really appreciate it. Let's see if I can pop up the Q&A section here. Lols. The question that came through in the last 7 hours in the community was how do we support more in the Circle community? What's up, Tom? Thanks for being here. There is only one tier for supporting the content. $5 a month, and that's it. Yeah, Sasheen, it's not the new year anymore, like we're heading towards the end of the month. So I think any like heading into the new year momentum is starting to kind of wane. Not like that really affects me. I'm a pretty like self-motivated, disciplined guy to start. And so it's not really like I make a bunch of resolutions and then hope that I'm going to stick to them. I'm pretty like systematized about how I approach these things. Just a weird, like, everybody still seems very on edge. I was like on Twitter scrolling a little bit before this, and I guess California just opened up again to be like available for, like dining in person, and everybody's panicking because they're like, we got to get back to, like, we got to open again, like we got to open tomorrow because we're going to lose money if we don't open. So this like overall social tension is still, weighing on me, I suppose. But no, work is straightforward. We actually hired somebody this week, believe it or not, and so that's been nice. More of what we've been doing, like more of these online events, more kit delivery things. I basically spent like 6 hours today writing material for the course. So the first module is, I have one more bullet point left. I have to finish talking about portioning, and like the importance of being portion minded when talking about prep. And so that's part of the kitchen fluency module. And then the next module that I'm going to go into is task workflow. So that should be a little bit more straightforward. I think a lot of the first module was like setting the groundwork. I obviously wrote the intro to the course. And then after task workflow is going to be habit formation and behavior change, which is like, those are going to be when you really start to see the gains being made. So I'm excited for that. Yeah, Sashina, I'd love an update if you're still hanging out here on how things are going with you. What I wouldn't give to do a dinner in person for people. I made a really good salmon dish on Friday. That was really, really good. Um, no, for the most part, it's just chill. It's at home. I'm doing a lot of writing. It is nice to see the weather get a little bit nicer in Seattle. Sun's coming out earlier, less cloudy days. I know that that's a little bit of wishful thinking because January can be a tease like that sometimes. We might still get a couple more days of gray, but it felt good today. And if anybody has, you know what I'm gonna do actually? I mean, these are office hours, right? So like, if you log in and you want to share a question or something that's on your mind, feel free to do so. The thing that I was gonna do is I haven't looked on Eater in a while. Maybe we can make this a little bit of like an industry news chat and see what's going on. And then if people have questions as they join, they can certainly do that. Oi. Oi. No bueno. Okay, so here's an interesting news story. And it syncs with someone who I've kind of been like, oh man, oh my goodness. Okay, this is not good at all. Sorry for that intro. So the headline is X 42 grams chef Stoneflower officially closes. And the subtitle is The Bucktown Restaurant from Disgraced Chef Jakin Bickelhaupt, who was convicted of battery against ex-wife, opened in 2019. Weird timing? I've been following this guy on YouTube because he commented on one of my stagiaire videos a while ago, and he has this YouTube channel called Sous Chef Academy, and he talks about this restaurant called Stoneflower. Let's read this whole thing. So Stoneflower's closed now, as another chef has announced plans for a new restaurant inside his Bucktown space. So his saga, for people who don't know, was like he did the 42 grams thing. Well, he did like underground dining thing in his house, in his apartment, then opened 42 grams in 2017. And a month later, he pled guilty to attacking his ex-wife, Alexa Welsh, who managed the restaurant. During the pandemic, Stoneflower exclusively offered takeout, a major change for a fine dining restaurant that specialized in luxurious tasting menus. Reading. A 3.5-hour video uploaded to his YouTube account in October shows him packing up his restaurant and saying he wanted to slip away quietly to avoid drawing any attention to Stoneflower's closure. Jeez. I will read this more because I think that this is concerning. This pandemic has led to an increase in domestic violence cases. Oh my goodness. Should I open up his YouTube channel? I almost don't want to. Like, I feel really bad. I mean, not like I'm like saying that we should pity someone who beats people up, but like the way to get covered like that. Sous Chef Academy. I mean, he was going hard on YouTube, you know? Like, went from 300 subscribers to he's at 3,000 now. He hasn't uploaded in a week. I mean, listen, if anybody were to kind of like evaluate my YouTube channels on my first like 20 videos, they probably would have talked hella shit on me, understandably. But it doesn't seem, and this is like first impression, obviously, like not first impression, but like I've watched a considerable amount of his videos to kind of like see what he's all about, what's his goals with the channel. And it seems like he's it seems very ego-centric, and there's just like cooking things that he shows. Like some of them are really good and some of them are just like, this is not good cooking. And to defend that, to show some examples, it's like there's a lot of Wagyu techniques that are just like you're burning that Wagyu. Like you're literally burning it. Um, yeah, Conroe, Tom, you mentioned it. Let's add this to the broadcast here. So Tom says, I've been following his YouTube channel as well. He runs a pop-up called Conroe from his home, and a follow-up documentary, 42 Grams, is being released soon. He's about 2 years sober and has turned his life around. It's great. But that's what I'm saying. Why publish this article now? This literally got published like 11 minutes ago. Yeah, today. By Ashok Selvam from Eater. And they literally hashtagged it Me Too. I mean, listen, a lot of chefs have mental hurdles that they need to overcome. And I'm just, I hope he's getting help. I hope that this, like, YouTube thing can be an outlet. But it's like, how many documentaries need to be made about yourself, It's like 1, 2, 3. Yeah, there's three thumbnails and titles in his YouTube feed that talk about documentaries. I mean, I thought that his video he did titled "The Future of Michelin-Star Restaurants 2021" was it broke down some nice stuff. I think it didn't necessarily offer any like practical solutions. And this is as someone who also hasn't come out with any content like that, so who am I to say? But yeah, I guess the issue I find with it is that there's a lot of talking about himself, even though and it's kind of like in the guise of trying to teach people things, but I don't know. You gotta try what works when you're starting off like that. You just gotta throw things at the wall and see what sticks. Yeah, Sasheen, that's sad. Tom asks, do I have any cooking / recipe videos planned similar to the dish of the day? I wish, man. I mean, like, honestly, I'm working on a thing right now for something that we were wanting to develop for Valentine's Day, but it kind of fell through. And it's like a fondue kit. And so the idea is something where as many of the ingredients are non-perishable as possible. And how can we create something where you get the fondue kit and then you can also you can source yourself for things to dip, or you can we can do a fun kit with one of our produce partners down at the market, so they can give you like really beautiful radishes and just like peas and nice vegetables to do for fondue. And then I can get wine from our favorite wine importer restaurant contact person, and then that can be a fun kit for people. And so that's what I'm working on this week. It's like a funny life. Yeah, anyways, I really like this software, guys. It's very, very clean. Okay, that was a weird headline to start. Let's see. Yeah, Phil Vitale stepped down too, didn't he? From writing in Chicago. It's a little sad. Not sad because I thought that he was like this prolific critic, but he's had a long run. Very interested to see who replaces him. If we can have like another Soleil Ho replacement scenario, like get some young blood in there. Let's see. Michelin is still giving stars in London. Outdoor dining resumes in California today. Maybe that's something we can talk about. There's like this big controversy that's happening with delivery services and how much money they're taking as their cut. I do have some opinions there. But first, let's talk about this. Here are London's 3 Michelin-star restaurants for 2021. So, Core by Claire Smith and Hélène Darroze at the Connaught have become London's newest 3 Michelin-starred restaurants. That's cool. When presented with the award, a visibly shocked Darroze said, "Putain, I don't know what to say." awesome. To have 3 new 3-star restaurants is a historic moment for Michelin. Why is it 3? Oh, I see. Anyways, okay, let's go to this other headline. Who's paying for the great delivery wars? And the subtitle is, it's probably not Uber Eats, Postmates, or Grubhub. So the thing that people are upset about is that at a arbitrary moment in time, some of them are referenced in this article. I don't have them off the top of my head. But a service like Grubhub would maybe take like 10% of a restaurant's order. Right? Now, it says, as of November 2020, DoorDash had 50% of the market share of sales, with Uber Eats and Postmates at a combined 30%, Grubhub at 18%, and all the other services in the last 1%. And then it says, overall, most restaurants find themselves paying as much as 30% per order in fees. And so what that is speaking of these increases in going from, check average was $40 per order. In the past, they would take $4 of that order, and now they're taking $12 of that order. And so we've seen a bunch of different strategic decisions from restaurants on this is, if you call them, you can get your chicken dish for $13, but if you order through Grubhub, DoorDash, Uber Eats, whatever, it's an $18 dish now. So they've kind of like built that buffer into the cost so that they're still making their margins, but they're paying, their fees are kind of like incorporated into the pricing. And I suppose the way that I approach this is like, what are you getting from that type of service, right? So, I get advertised in my inbox, in Instagram, they send mailers to our house of like, sign up to our delivery service. And, the idea of someone else not owning the audience, I think, is frustrating because, in a world where you only used to have to compete with the people next to you, brick and mortar, now you have to compete with every other type of cuisine in the city. More or less happy to say that there hasn't been any sort of like gamifying or rigging the system, stacking the deck to like be the first option you see on any of these platforms. But as far as the increase in cost, it's like, I don't think we've seen what types of infrastructure that DoorDash has had to put in to accommodate to the probably crazy spike that they've seen. And then combo that with the fact that a lot of the incentive for people to join a new platform is like free delivery, memberships, whatever. And so it's not to say that I'm like, oh, boo-hoo to these companies, like they're hurting, like the delivery companies are hurting, but it's also like, has anybody done the numbers of, like, for the most part, from what I understand, and from the like back end systems that friends of mine that have businesses that have been doing this have shown me, it's like you more or less have a different device for each platform, and the orders come in and you can sync it up with a ticket printer to literally print out tickets, and then you just get like a knock on your door from a delivery driver. And then based on setting up your account, like that's how the payouts happen. And so has anybody done the math to compare that with keeping people on staff to answer the phone or monitor the website or like print out those tickets and expedite? Like, how much are you saving per day? And it's like, when it gets up to like that 30% range, like that's the average staff cost that most people are trying to hit on their businesses. So I can kind of see where that's frustrating. But if you're able to just kind of like inflate your prices to accommodate there, that happens in all sorts of other industries. You book a hotel room on a service that is going to take a cut. The hotel room is priced in a way where that hotel still makes that margin. So I don't see that as like, that's not a weird thing to me. I don't see that as bad, because if the infrastructure is there to a place that just like they had to lay off a lot of their staff, they don't have the ability to pay payroll, they'd rather just take the cut because it's a percentage of revenue. You know, like you don't have to worry about, like, the money's coming in and the cut comes out. You don't have to worry about keeping someone on staff if there's going to be a slow day. Like, you might end up losing more dollars in that week from, you know, just, I don't know. And it's also like how many people are discovering new restaurants from these businesses. I don't have that data. Like, we don't have those numbers. But like, it's clearly a commodity style service. You know, it's not like the market share is, you know, DoorDash at 50%, you know, that's, you know, approaching monopoly. If we see some sort of like buyout happen where DoorDash buys Grubhub, and I know that the owners of these kind of like shift around, and I can't keep track of them in my brain. But you know, it's not like Facebook with the first social media network, you know? Like, it's not like there's one delivery company. There seems to be a lot of competition. And so then it just becomes a race to the bottom, you know, who has the free delivery promotions more, you know? That's basically how Anna and I choose to order out. For places that are like, you know, we have our favorite Chinese restaurant that we call them because there's a soup on the menu that you can only get it in that size, the large size, if you call. And so we call them. There's a chicken place near our place that we just walk to. There's another like Philly cheese sandwich place that we drive to near our place. And where else do we go? Oh, I do. There's a dim sum place and Bonchon. I do pickups from them because for the most part, Anna and I don't order enough to get free delivery, and so I will just, you know, book the order on DoorDash and then just go pick it up from there. And I only like that because I get points, and I think I have a free membership through one of the services or a credit card that I have. So again, it's like, how are you going to place? It seems to be so individual for everybody, and I think that this act of brushing these companies in a bad light because they're wanting to take 30%, like, there's a lot of business relationships where it's 60-40. There's a lot of relationships where 70-30 is like the standard. And so if they're bringing business, they're making it easy on the back end, and you can still continue to do what you do and keep your lights on, that might be the cost of doing business, you know, during this type of, and, you know, I can only imagine that they're thinking through like these individual, like, enterprise style contracts that they can come up with and present to these businesses where, you know, the business pays $500 a month or, you know, $1,500 a month, and they actually get someone from DoorDash that can white label a page for them. You know, like, they get priority pricing on, you know, like, they get priority delivery drivers. Like, they only get the people that have 5 stars as delivery drivers to come pick up food from them. You know, like, they're probably planning all sorts of these interesting back end things with the 30% that they're taking. I just think, and, you know, again, that's the subtitle of this, of one of these columns, is Delivery Apps Hurt Restaurants. It says, of course, nobody makes $1 billion without ripping somebody off. It's like, you know, at what point is it like the only way to run a good business is to break even and be kind to everyone? It's like, be nice. It's like, it's so cutthroat. A lot of these businesses are feeling insane pressure from competitors too. Let's see here. And I'm sure there's a bunch of like horror stories of people just getting completely shafted by these businesses. But yeah, it says two restaurants filed a class action lawsuit to Grubhub over the practice. So it's saying that like Grubhub listed profiles of places that resulted in unexpected orders that might be based on outdated menu items and customers complaining when their orders are canceled. So, again, it's too individual. Same to you, Eddie. Happy New Year. Hope things are good. All right, rogue-ish chef. Let's talk through this question here. What advice would you give to an apprentice trying to find a chef to mentor under? I'm in my 3rd and final year, but for the most part, most of the chefs I've met are only interested in cheap labor. I mean, that might be a sign of the times you know, like there might not be a lot of chefs who are able to say for certain what the next 6 months of their work life is going to be. And so the idea that they, you know, are able to give this extra, I mean, that's like the gravy, you know, like being able to mentor someone is the gravy. When you're in survival mode, the mentoring can often come from you. If you're in the trenches with someone who's trying to survive and keep their business afloat, you can learn a lot in that type of an environment, but it's not going to feel like the kind of like cozy mentorship, someone with their hand on your shoulder type of thing. And so, I mean, I would need to know a little bit more about your, like what goals do you have for yourself? Like, because I thought that the best mentor that I was going to have was going to be my first mentor was like my sous chef at Per Se. He was young and very, very talented. He just like trained in France, trained in London, moved to New York at like 20 years old to become a sous chef at a 3 Michelin-star restaurant. Like that's exactly what I wanted to do. And he very quickly fell out of my sphere of mentor. Like at the time, he was a great mentor to have. But as I started to get more interested in like talking to guests and, you know, creating dishes of my own and not just being a workhorse, being like a more entrepreneurial, I found that some of his qualities weren't exactly interesting or like he wasn't able to mentor me in those sectors. And so when I moved to the restaurant in Norway, like that's all that chef was. Like he was doing TV appearances and he now has 3 restaurants and very, very savvy. He wanted to put the whole city on the map. So he was, you know, doing pieces for New York Times and bringing in photographers from all over the place and inviting chefs from all over. And that more so ticked boxes for me where I was excited to learn under that person. And I call him a mentor. I think he knows that he's my mentor, but there was more often than not, the mentorship relationships that happen don't come from you sitting across the table from that man or woman and them saying, I'm your mentor now. You know, it's not like that. It kind of develops over time and the gravity of people will attract you to them depending on what you're kind of interested in learning. And so that, I mean, hopefully that helps. Hopefully that gives you some direction. And I think the beauty of it is, and I've said this before in other interviews and content that I've done, is that like, I think that the age of having a single career mentor is over. I think the stories that a lot of people hearken to is like Thomas Keller with, who is it, Roland Hennin was his mentor, and like Gordon Ramsay says that Marco Pierre White was his mentor, and like everybody has this single person that they kind of like point to because at the time it was like, you know, you kind of like you go work for someone and then you do the same thing that you learned from them in a different location, you know. And I think because the craving from the market is novelty so much, in order to be successful, you actually have to combine, you have to remix things, you know, you have to combine a couple different ideas. You can't just open another cooking over hearth restaurant in San Francisco and hope to win just because you worked at Cezanne. Like that's not how it works anymore. And so don't put so much pressure on yourself to find a single mentor. I think that the idea of that has fizzled out a little bit. You might have one mentor now for a couple years, and then you'll meet someone else who happens to scratch an itch that you happen to have, and then you can learn from that person, and then take that into your next project, and go from there. Thanks, Alex. I'm glad you got some value. Chris is a great guy, and I'm excited to have him on my podcast. And you had a question. In addition to your compliment, you had a question, so thank you. We're at like 30 more minutes, guys, just so everybody knows. This is empty. No, there's a little bit left. Any insight or advice to keep motivated while transitioning from working in restaurant kitchens to self-employment, in my case, to packaged fermented food products? Oh, you drove that forward. I remember this whole saga. That's amazing that you're seeking investors. I'd be curious to hear what products you kind of like landed on and which ones you're working on. I mean, biggest thing that helped me was reading a book called The E Myth Revisited. If you haven't read it yet, you 3000% should, because even this week, like I was going through my weekly review on yesterday. I did my weekly review yesterday instead of Saturday, which isn't normally how I do it, but I did it yesterday. And the book talks about having 3 identities to yourself, right? So there's the entrepreneur, there's the manager, and then there's, I don't remember what they call it, the employee. I think it's like the entrepreneur, the manager, and the employee. And at any point in your day, you might be doing the task of one of these 3 roles. But the idea is like, it's similar to like the Gary Vee clouds and dirt concept, where it's like the entrepreneur is all about like the strategic vision. Where is this company going? Like, what are the highest leverage tasks that we can be working on right now? The manager is kind of like, how can this be operationally better? Like, is this going efficiently? I'm going into this client interview, like, again, talking about investors, like that's like maybe the manager role. And then the employee is like, I am measuring out vinegar for this pickle recipe, And so thinking through the fact that you never, I say never, but like a lot of people don't ever stop doing employee things, or they don't ever not have to do the entrepreneurial stuff. But the idea that you can actually, like, there's another great piece, which is like maker time and manager time. I think that's what it's titled. Someone can fact check me in the comments if I'm wrong. But the idea of like putting your headspace and attention on different things has been really helpful for me, where even as I just said, the weekends for me is like planning, strategizing, thinking about it. And then for me today was like 6 hours of writing. Like that's employee time, and this could arguably be manager time, because I'm like engaging with you, like hoping that more people sign up for the community, like all that kind of stuff. And so, I mean, I guess this is like employee time too, because I'm being a YouTuber right now. Still freaks me out to call myself a YouTuber. But yeah, the motivation part just comes with like, I mean, first of all, like it's helped me so much to just acknowledge that the motivation has to come from me. For so much of people's careers, the motivation comes from like, if I don't clock in, I'm not going to get paid. And so it's like when you've snoozed your alarm 3 times and it's like you just got to get up and go to work, like that you're going to get roasted at work if you don't show up on time. And so it shifts a little bit when like you're the one that would have to roast yourself if you don't log into your Excel spreadsheet on time, or if you don't, happen to create that new product this week. And that kind of like self-discipline is really, really difficult when you're starting, because when it's extrinsic motivation, when it comes from outside yourself, it can actually be very easy to stick to a thing. But this intrinsic motivation piece can be really, really hard to wrap your head around and adjust to. It's really, really not easy. And so, did I share it in a recent email? Maybe I did, maybe I didn't. Just this idea that like, don't rely on motivation. Oh, I did write it. Okay, I'm going to open this up because it was actually like a big epiphany, and I'm really vending machine. Where is it? There you go. Okay. So the quote is, motivation is a shitty vending machine that gets stuck regardless of what you put in. So like, think of a vending machine, you put coins in the machine, but like if you put in parentheses, I wrote time and emotions. So if you have a thing that needs to be done, if you put time into it, or if you put emotions into it, you get all caught up and stressed out and anxiety about it. It can get stuck, and it's not going to give you what you want. You go up and you think you're going to get the new cabbage product, and you put all these emotions into it, or you put all this time in stressing about it, and it gets stuck. And then the antithesis to this, the solution is, habits are an algorithm that returns the same output or results as long as the input is right. And so think about it like that. Like, if you have products you need to work on, show me your calendar. what is the 2-hour time block every week that is the habit that you show up to, regardless of, again, it's an algorithm. You know what I mean? An algorithm is like, as long as you put in, as long as you show up, you don't have to worry about motivation, you know? Because it's like, then you're going to be hard on yourself, right? Yeah, Eddie, and an unplugged broken arcade machine. Yeah, good other analogy. Um, yeah, so just thinking through, like, I'm gonna pop your question up here again. Um, yeah, stop thinking about it from like, I need to be motivated in order to do this thing. Put it on your calendar, or block out a day every week where it's like, this is my day when I work on my investor pitch deck. This is the day when I work on new products. This is the day when I interview people, like new hires, or this is the day when I'm going to like train my staff or whatever. This is the day when I'm going to take off of work, you know? Like, I feel like that can also be something that people think that like, if the motivation is missing, that means that they don't care, you know, or that it's lost its luster. And I think the thing that doesn't come first to people's minds is to like take time away from this thing, focus on something else that brings you joy, come back to the thing that is the thing, the main thing, and then just go from there. Yeah, thanks for signing up, man. It means a lot. Okay, Tom, question about doing a supper club out of your home. Not possible, as London is in lockdown. But any tips on how to start it? So I have a coaching client who went through this whole saga. I mean, from working in New York to getting a job at a Michelin-starred restaurant in Chicago that we worked through, and then now he's at a point where he's doing private dinners and getting hired to do all sorts of interesting freelance projects, right? And he had a lot of success with, and I've given this advice before, and I think it really pays high dividends. I've done it myself. There's a lot of pictures on my website that were from arrangements like this. And it is to find a photographer on Instagram that you really happen to enjoy their aesthetic, and either pay them for their time, or if you can't afford them, see if they will trade in exchange for food. So like at that dinner, you just make an extra plate of each dish and you feed this photographer your food. Like that was the guy who did my photos. It was like I cooked for his birthday dinner and I gave him food at the pop-up that I did. And he just loved food. Like he just loved the idea of connecting with chefs, shooting in the kitchen, being in that kind of an environment, and just gave him a lot of excitement. And I needed photo assets to promote my pop-ups, right? And that is the best thing you can do for yourself, because as people are inundated with experience opportunities, things that they could do on their Friday night, why should they choose to come to your event? Why should they come to your pop-up? Why should they come to your home in your supper club? And really identifying like who those people are, where do they hang out, and how can you connect with them? It seems very simple, but in practice it can be hard, because you get caught up with these ideas of like you want to look a certain way in your marketing, or you are afraid that if you like put it out like this, it's going to directly compete with this other thing. I shared in one of my videos of, we came to this funny realization that like, why are we trying to compare ourselves with a restaurant? Because we're not. we don't have a massive service staff. We don't have matching plates and cups and glasses. And so the idea that we should compare ourselves with someone who's executing in the same brick and mortar space every night is a little bit silly. And so don't be so hard on yourself. I think it's actually attractive. Like if you're wanting to attract the people who are interested in these types of experiences, they want the kind of like nitty gritty experimental, I might meet somebody cool at this this dinner. I think if you listen to my episode with Max Shapiro, I think his way of approaching it, where he curates the entire guest list of everybody who's at his dinners to specifically design them so that they're interesting conversational experiences attracts amazing people to that kind of thing. Because if you have someone who's like, again, let's use Alex for an example. Alex is a small business owner who owns this really like grassroots fermentation company that does soy substitute amino acids, misos, and pastes, and gochujang with Mexican chilies. Like, who does Alex hang out with? I mean, you probably have a great friend group, but like, if I knew Alex lived in my city and I could invite Alex to an event where I could also invite, you know, my friend Nate, who does like interesting wines in like Southern Washington, you know, like they would probably have a really cool conversation, you know? So like if you can build that up as your, like, and yours might be different, you know, like you might be able to, I don't know, random thing that makes you stand out. That's kind of cool. That actually syncs with your audience is like, if you want to connect with, if you want to serve young professionals in London who happen to have a lot of disposable income, maybe you can find like a startup that does like really interesting pottery projects, right? And you can approach them. You don't have an audience, but they happen to have one. And then you say to them, you know, I'm doing these supper club dinners. I have experience as a chef. I'm wanting to showcase your products with my food. Would you be willing to do some sort of partnership? You know, because then it's like instant audience up and off the ground. You know, it might not be your ideal audience, but it's better than zero. Then you happen to take some of the money from those proceeds, hire a photographer to shoot your food. Your food is plated on really gorgeous pottery, you know, and then you can use those assets to just kind of like rinse and repeat, get more clients of your own, start to own that audience, XYZ. 20 more minutes, guys. Maybe we'll do like 10 more minutes. Only because I didn't get a ton of questions in from the community this week, and I want to make sure that I get back to writing. I really want to finish this first module, because if it's like ticked off in my brain, that's going to feel really good, and then I have to go make dinner. Beyond the pandemic, what do you think is the largest problem the restaurant service industry is facing? I think that we're going to start to see the normalization of a 40-hour work week in like restaurants that have really managed to establish themselves. And I think that that might actually be one of the biggest catalysts of the $15 minimum wage happening. Because time and a half at $22.50 an hour is just going to be a little bit too much for a lot of restaurants to stomach. And so if you are the, you know, 20 employee, you know, maybe like 30 employee to 100 employee restaurant, like you're not super small, like hole in the wall. You actually happen to have like, you probably have someone that does HR and, you know, all that stuff. Your employees might have benefits. Like, I think a shorter work week is probably in the cards. And I guess to address the problem, it's like this feeling of burnout, you know, and hopefully places are able to kind of like meet somewhere in the middle of that. So it's not like everybody's paying the $15 minimum, you know, like we start to see normalization of like a living wage for people. And this is something that Ray and I, the host of Line Cook Thoughts, talk about offline quite a bit, is like, how can we make the industry more attractive to people who want to do it? Because it just, the second that you mention that you want to be in restaurants, it's just like you get met with all this criticism from people, and I think it's harmful. But at the same time, I don't blame people. You know, there's a reason that I got out of restaurants. I like the lifestyle more. So how that gets addressed, I'm not 100% sure. But yeah, just like this overall concept of if you're front of house, you're going to make money. If you're back of house, you're going to get shafted. I think that's unfortunate. And this combination of like minimum wage being raised, work hours get adjusted. Maybe there's some sort of like agreement where everybody works 40 hours a week and there's just a more even spread across that thing. So it's not like the front of house is getting paid $36 an hour and the line cook is getting paid $16.75. You know, maybe there's a little bit more of like this happening, you know, so there's a little bit more equality there. Brad says, how can one best work on and build their line/prep skills at home during this lockdown? I need to get on Clubhouse. Okay, I'm going to show you guys this right now. Clubhouse is on my phone. And I got a text. Woody moved me to the front of the wait list. So, I got at Justin Khanna as a username, which I'm super happy about. And yeah, I clearly haven't clicked on that link yet because I, whatever. Just haven't had the time to jump on Clubhouse. I'm too busy trying to create my own content out here on the internet. But yeah, it looks really interesting. And for conversations like this, and even like future interviews, as I was talking at the beginning of this live stream about like interviews live, I think that would be really interesting. But yeah, I am on Clubhouse. Whatever, I'll figure it out later tonight. Not a time for me to be poking around on my phone right now. But line prep skills at home. So huge reason why I'm working on the course so hard. I really hope that someone who is between jobs can take the course and come into their next job much more level-headed. But like, could you potentially decide that you, I did it for Thanksgiving, right? Like the biggest meal that I've cooked in the last 3 months was Thanksgiving, and it was literally only for like 6 people, and it was for my wife and I, and then I delivered meals to like 2 of our friends, and then another, household. And so that is true actually, because all of the other ones were like individual ingredient kits, so it wasn't actually cooking. But like, I don't know, when you're cooking for more, it's really hard to get prep skills down when you're just cooking for yourself or you and your partner or you and your roommate or whatever. And so could you find a way to like, I don't know, talk to and this is only top of mind because like my dad just moved into an assisted living facility. Like, could you talk to someone there and just say like, hey, I'm going to do 1 meal a week for 40 of your residents, and just like push yourself, like come up with a dish that you think is like a little over and above and beyond where you're currently at. Smash out 40 of them and go and deliver them. Like you could do that, and they would probably pay you for it because they're like their residents still need 3 meals a day, and so it's actually not a financial outlay for you. You're actually able to do it in a way that breaks even. And I don't know what your kitchen looks like or whatever, but yeah, like there's if you're really hungry to kind of like continue to improve, and it might also be something where like if you have someone that's in your COVID pod and you can safely invite them over to cook with you, you could actually learn this dynamic of like cooking with a station partner, and it's also like something cool you can do for your community. And that only, again, top of mind because it's like assisted living facility, nursing home style situation. But you can do it for your church. You can do it for like a Meals on Wheels style situation. You can do it for a hospital. You can do it, and I know that the restrictions on hospitals are different, but I guess you know what I'm talking about. My reps series is great. Like if you're really struggling and you really feel bored, carve down your rep times, reps times, and see what happens there. Or, like go on Amazon or, go to a local bookstore and just like find a really obscure cookbook that just either like, is in a cuisine that is just completely out of your comfort zone. Because through that act of kind of like thinking through a different preparation of food, that always breathes new life into cooking for me. When I get bored, like that's one of my favorite things to do. Being a chef and restaurant owner is working 60 to 80-hour work weeks and never seeing the family or friends or getting burnt out. In Canada, there's a $15 minimum wage, but most places shaft people with 26-hour work weeks. Yeah, that's rough. And that's why I mentioned like the 30 to 100 person businesses might see this change, because I think anything less than 30, you're usually seeing people put in more hours. Like it's part of the gig, like it's part of the job. Um, 50, 60, 70-hour work weeks are more than normal. And when it's a smaller staff, you can usually kind of like make that, like, there's not, the pie doesn't get cut in as many pieces. And so it's like you can afford to pay individual people more, because you're usually hiring people who have like way more specific, way more like broad skill sets, versus hiring like 3 people on the garmager station. If you can have like 1 or 2 people who just like crush the garmager station, you're happy to pay them more, due to like space constraints or whatever. You're very welcome, Brad. Okay, I will take one more question, and then I'm gonna bounce off of this whole shebang. It's so funny that I did this, but I have yet to shoot the Ask JK video from December. Yeah, such is life. I don't. You know what? I'm gonna check here. No, I don't have it open, so I'm just gonna tell you about it. I started a thing called Spoon Drop on my email newsletter, and the one that dropped this week was this silver iced teaspoon from Holmes and Edwards. I think there's one left on the site, and this is, in lieu of merch. So it's like, instead of getting t-shirts through Teespring, I would rather give you something that, like, I think most of you have enough t-shirts. I would rather get you something cool to cook with. And so if you go to justinkhanna.com/shop, I think there's one left. So yeah, that's going to start with email newsletter people. So probably every newsletter, like, I want to do more. I will just drop a couple of spoons on the site, and when the email newsletter goes out, that's the same exact time when the shop page goes live, and it works like sneaker drops. Like, I just drop a bunch of spoons, and if one person wants to come on and buy them all, they totally can, or you can just buy a new one, because I feel like a lot of people don't have great thrifting options near them. And so my lens by which I view picking out spoons is like, the bowl has to be good for quenelling for the most part, or it has to be a uniquely shaped bowl. Hopefully either 100% silver or silver plated, and then just old intricate handle designs that are just like beautiful and look cool, and probably something you don't happen to have in your kit. And so yeah, that's a new project. Roguish Chef, can you recommend a good source for learning plating techniques? Yes. I am working on this as a module in the course, so it's really top of mind right now. So if I say plating, it's going to pull up my notes here. Boom. Okay. So I'm just going to read you a line. I'm not going to read you the whole module, because that would be boring. Not boring, but it would be unnecessary for your question. But what do I say here? Let's see. Oh, plating techniques from sauce swooshes to quenelles to asymmetric layouts to building height with components to brush strokes to puree dots all vary from restaurant to restaurant and even dish to dish. And so I think if you could focus on building those 5 techniques, so you literally buy or make your own. And when I say buy, I mean like you could literally put sriracha sauce in a bowl or in a deli and just get a stack of plates or a bunch of paper plates, like empty the whole bottle of sriracha sauce into a bowl and do a rep style, like swoosh the plate. And then if it's like you have a little like bench scraper, you scrape it back into another deli, you know what I mean? So it's like you do swoosh from the deli, and then there's another deli on the table, and it's like you swoosh the plate. Maybe you have 3 plates, and you do swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. You pick up those plates. You like, are those consistent? Did I put the right amount of sauce on those plates? You know, like, is it the right kind of swoosh? And then you can upgrade it to like the double swoosh, you know, so it's like the little spiral thing. It looks like a tornado kind of thing, where it's not just the one brush stroke thing. And then you kind of use the bench scraper and scrape it back into a deli, and then you kind of like use a spoonula and put it back into the fresh deli, you know. And then you do it again, and you do it again, and you do it again, and you do it again. And if you don't have a restaurant you're going into all the time, that will get you used to when 12 plates get spread out on the pass, you feel confident approaching a bunch of plates like that. So, and then quenelles, I have a video all about that. Asymmetric layouts. So this is talking about like, you have a plate and you need things to be placed in quadrant 2 of this plate. And then you also need to kind of like put things in a way that looks like modern art, you know? So can you learn that a little bit, you know? And you kind of, you use it like tangrams. Do you know what tangrams are? It's like those little shape wooden block thingies that you can make different animals out of. Like, you use the same set of mise en place. You make mise en place trays, but you make 3 of them, and you challenge yourself to like, can I plate these ingredients in 3 different ways? Give that a try. That's what I do with my, at the end of some of my knife review videos, I do like the using all of these vegetables that I cut montage. So I have fun with that. And then the 2 other ones are building height with components. And that means like you have your piece of fish, and then you have your wedge of cabbage, and you need to make these like onion chips, make it look like it's growing out of this dish. Like, height is very, very important with presentation at a lot of places, because the opposite looks dead and lifeless when the plate is just kind of like flat, and you know, everything is just kind of like look like it was just thrown on there. So building height is very important, and you might start to learn like, oh, it's really interesting. It's really important to have moisture, because that's like glue, you know, for herbs to stick in certain ways. And you know, you can buy spinach. You don't have to buy, you know, micro tarragon, or like, you don't have to pick individual mint leaves. You can buy a pack of spinach, like a $2 pack of spinach, and, you know, chiffonade the leaves and use those leaves in conjunction with something else to kind of like teach yourself how to build that height. Same with like radish shaves and stuff like that. What else did I say? Brush strokes is kind of similar to like the plate swooshes technique. And then puree dots. I used to get roasted with my puree dots, because you want them to look kind of, you want them to have height. You want them to look like domes, like pointy little domes. You don't want them to look like the poop emoji, you know? And you also don't want it to have that effect where you kind of like, you do it and then a little bit of air comes out and it looks like a crater. You want it to have that kind of like nice, round, fluffy dome with a slight tip at the top. And so, you know, use my Get It Right Spoonula puree video, make a thick puree, or if you have a you know, squeeze bottle that you can empty out and use it, and then just like go around a plate, you know, like do an entire, I mean, there's chefs who have dishes where the entire plate is like dots. Do that as an exercise. And I would have a hard time believing that if your sauce swoosh game, your quenelle game, your asymmetric layout game, your building height with components game, your brush stroke game, and your puree dot game is not, if all those games are good, I find it hard to believe that you would think that your plating is lacking, right? So, you know, hopefully that helps. Again, tons of questions have come in about plating techniques, and again, the Demi Skills course is going to come out, and I hope it does well. But I'm basically writing the equivalent of a book of everything I know about kitchen productivity. And so there's going to be a myriad of free videos that come with this. Like, this technique, this one thing, is a reps video in and of itself. And all I have to do is just like script that video out. The idea is here now. I have put down on paper my tips that I hope help people in plating better. So yeah, stay tuned. I hope you're excited for that. I've considered sugar-free energy drinks, but a friend of mine said that caffeine isn't the way to go. Oh, sorry. I read the second part of your question. I was like, that's a very specific sentence to say. Okay, Keith, you're in culinary school and you're having trouble balancing getting meals, prep lists, and homework done, and actually having enough energy to get to school. Don't do sugar-free energy drinks. Focus on your sleep. You know? Having a good night's sleep is way better than a Red Bull. Put that on a t-shirt. Okay, your first question. I suppose the question is how permanent is this? Because I certainly had times in culinary school where like your class load and your homework load feels like a lot, but it was temporary. You know, like it'd go in phases. You know, we would have days when we would literally stay up till 4 a.m. playing Diablo 3 because we had nothing else to do. And there were certain days where we just felt like completely overwhelmed. We felt like we were going to fail the class and get held back and not make our graduation, you know? So it's like it ebbs and flows. I don't know how permanent, again, this type of workload is for you. You know, are you putting too much weight on your prep list? You know what I mean? Because what is the downside to having to figure that out in the moment in your, you know, kitchen environment? Could you potentially like get better at, like, how structured is it from your professor teaching you that session? Like, in other words, are you putting too much pressure on yourself to have a perfect prep list? And because so much of your mental energy has been spent creating that, you don't have enough energy left to do the homework assignments. Like, could you reverse it? You know, like, I'm gonna do the homework assignment so it's completely smashed out, and then I'm gonna spend 20 minutes like writing out the individual things that I need to do. 20 minutes, like, it doesn't sound like a long time, but it's a long time. Write out the individual things that you need to do, and then maybe like get a good night's sleep, show up the next day, and then like maybe show up to the kitchen 20 or 30 minutes early. So you feel like you grab the equipment you need, like you feel like you're in a clear headspace. You're not tired. You're not frantically running around. That might be more productive than thinking that you need to slam a bunch of caffeine. And water. Good call, roguish chef. I'm all for a higher minimum wage. I think we've seen a lot of data come out that shows that it doesn't increase menu prices. And like I said, required to have our meals list handwritten and sent in by 8 o'clock a.m. If we are late, it's a 5% drop in the grade. Okay, could you, let's see. Could you potentially talk to one of your professors and this is like, I struggle giving this advice because this is so risky. Like, I don't want to make you think that it sucks if you can't get this taken care of, but like, could you tell this person that like your professor that you're struggling with this, and say something like, could I type mine out? I'm faster at typing, you know, like this is really causing me to fall behind in this section. I don't know. It just seems like a really weird, arbitrary, like, requirement for people to, and I get it. Like, you don't want people to just be like, one person writes it and sends it to everybody. But you know, maybe if you're like, if you, when you handwrite, you feel like you're slower because you know, your mind moves faster than your hand can. Could you type things out, get it all out, and then just, you know, like, make yourself a tea in the evening, wind down, write your prep list out, and again, do the homework first so that this element isn't so much pressure. Water, water, water. Water, water, water. I'm feeling thirsty right now, actually. Okay, everyone. We really wanted to help my buddy Keith, so we stayed on longer than we should have. But we're here having a good time. Reminder, if you want to like this video, that'd be cool. Subscribe if you aren't already. I don't think that there's anybody who's here that isn't subscribed. But if, YouTube data is funny. Sometimes it will unsubscribe you if you are not subscribed. And so, like the video, subscribe if you haven't. And if you got value from me answering your question, I would love to see you here next month. Last Monday of every single month, I had a coaching call today with a client. And so I was at 3:30 Pacific time, and I'm hoping to do them at 2 p.m. Pacific time. And I think that works with a lot of other different time zones, so that will be nice. And so I will see everybody who's joining this next Monday. If you like what I talked about, the kind of like one-on-one individual advice, like popping questions up type of thing, this happens every single week for the community. And so if you scroll down in the description, there's a link. It's $5 a month. You also get to connect with a bunch of other line cooks, and there's a food scientist in there now, and just people who have really, really interesting perspectives. And I'm building it out as a way to kind of like engage beyond YouTube. So it's like you won't have to kind of like scroll down into the comment section, because it's only the people who have skin in the game and who want to kind of like better themselves and grow. It's also going to be where I'm going to host the community for the course as it gets launched. There's like 2 unboxings there right now with a new Town Cutler knife that I'm making a review on, and like a quick breakdown of some gear from ChefWorks. And yeah, you get to hang out with me every single week on Mondays like this if you sign up for that. And so if you don't, or if you can't, there's no stress. I'm here every single month, last Monday of every month. And so yeah, that's me. Appreciate you, Keith. Just keep it up, man. Like, it comes with time. Like, you'll start to notice that your capacity for things goes up as you start to like go outside your comfort zone. You'll take a look at you asking me this question a year from now, and you'll be like, man, I can't believe that I couldn't get through that. Like, you'll start to, it just comes with time. Mr. K, I'm the knife man. That's great. Okay, thanks everybody. I will see you, all of you, next month. But everybody who joins up for the community, I will see you next week on Monday. And yeah, thanks so much for joining. I hope you have a good one.